Throughout the past few years at the Alumni Association, we've been trying to get this together, but this year we finally, had some members that got together, went and researched the stories. We have quite a large group, and we had this size of a group on Tuesday as well, so I think we can work with it. We went through every building file on North Campus, and we saw, just different things that had happened there, and 10 major stories came up. And it's just a great way to learn about the history of the university. And stay close.
Just about anywhere you scratch the surface of this tranquil college town, you're liable to turn up a ghost. Both Confederate and Union soldiers died on the very ground on which you will be walking tonight. So listen closely, be on the lookout, as you don't want to become a ghost of students past today. Welcome, and let's begin.
Once the university decided to convert this into a office building, they bricked up and plastered over both fireplaces. Whether or not this house is haunted remains a mystery, but it is believed that Confederate Morris is here today searching for his beloved fireplace. So each night after midnight, it is said that you can hear people pacing back and forth, or you can hear the rock of an old wooden chair as it creaks on the floorboard. There is space across the street. Please stay out of the road. Back in the 1960s, a man walked into Athens. His name was Willie. No one knew where he came from or even why he was here. Mr. Willie was walking, and as he was walking, a train snuck up behind him and hit him. Poor Mr. Willie's body was in one location and his head ended up in another. If you are walking near the Oconee River on the railroad tracks on a dark and creepy night, much like tonight, you might see Mr. Willie's head rolling up and down the railroad tracks in search of his body, which he will never find because it is currently buried here in the Jackson Street Cemetery in an unmarked stone. For that reason, it's also said that the ghost of Dr. LeConte still lingers in the halls. Some students have proclaimed that they can hear sounds of experimenting occurring as they're sitting in their classrooms.
It's rumored that the Fine Arts Building used to be haunted by a poltergeist by the name of James O. James. Casts would arrive before their performances to find their props and sets moved around, and James's name would often appear in programs after they had already been printed.
At this building in 1972, a young man hung himself in his dorm room over Christmas break. As students came back to classes in January, they found his body swollen and leaking of all his fluids. The stench was so unbearable that the university was forced to brick up the entrance to the hallway in which he lived. This bricked passageway is meant to keep out his ghost and his horrible smell. Here you can see the staircase that leads to nothing, where he used to live.
Although no ghosts are said to be roaming their halls, both buildings have experienced their fair share of blood and death. Now, during the war between the states, New College served as the Confederate infirmary of Dr. Crawford W. Long, where he actually performed amputations without anesthesia on many patients. Now, as renovations have slowed, there has been some conjecture among students that perhaps they found some of the amputees' legs from Dr. Crawford W. Long.
Around 1:30, as it was reported, they heard not just creaking on the stairwell, but real footsteps. Footsteps that sounded like they were Confederate Army issued boots clanking on the woodwork. They marched their way all the way up the stairs, right to the middle of the room, but nobody was there. They only heard the footsteps. Students, a little freaked at this point, wouldn't you be? Ran to the only source of light in the room, the front window glowing with moonlight. As they reached the front window, What do you think they saw floating in the second-story window? The ghost of Robert Toombs, giving them full salute in his Confederate Army uniform.
I really like the one with the stairwell.
That one was so scary.
That one did freak us out.
The stench was too much, so they had to like case him in there or something. That was pretty cool.
It's good. It's really good. It's definitely
freaked out of my mind.